online. You won't be able to see everyone who's here, but you will hear their voices and their questions. We also plan to take questions from you. So if there's something you'd like, Royal members Doug Lyons and Gary Stein. Also in the room is political reporter Tony Mann and Brittany Wallman, as well as candidates, researching their backgrounds and talking to people who know them. Because we ask tough questions and go beyond the sound bites, some politicians choose not to. This is the second time she's had the courage to come visit this editorial board during her campaign. So welcome, Senator Rich.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. Pleasure to be here.
Good to have you.
Forgot it. Yeah, it was in the spring, I think, of last year.
That's right. That's right. We had a good conversation
then,
and we'll have another one today. But you haven't been able to move the polls as much as you want. So people want to know, why are you still in the race?
Well, I'm still in the race because I believe there needs to be a real choice for governor in November. And I see the only way that there's a real choice is for a real Democrat, a true Democrat, to be in the race. And I've had, as you know, 12 years of legislative experience. I think I bring it may not show where I am today. I would suggest that they didn't show where Eric Cantor was either. And he ended up losing. So polls don't mean everything. It's the people, the votes of the people. And that's why I continue to go around the state, just as I did last night in Tampa, Florida, and drove all the way back so I could be here today. I was at a forum with the NAACP last night. So that's what I'm going to continue to do till August 26th, and then the voters will make up their minds, not the polls.
And do you have any information that we don't have that suggests your campaign is gaining ground?
I don't have any polling information at this point that I would, that I know of. I guess what I'm feeling is a tremendous amount of momentum, and it's anecdotal, but it's everywhere I go. You know, when I was at the event, the Urban League event in Broward the other night, Urban and the Deltas, so many people came up and said, "I voted for you. I've already voted." And that's what I'm getting everywhere. So, and that is anecdotal, but I really believe that my message is resonating with the people. People are concerned about issues. They're not hearing about issues from my opponent. They hear about issues from me, and they want to hear about them. They want suggested solutions. They want to have a better life for their families and themselves, and that's what I'm offering.
Can I just follow up on that a little bit? Democrats obviously want to win and want to defeat Governor Scott in November. So why shouldn't Democrats go with the candidate that that the polls all indicate, and all the political wisdom indicates is the one who has the best chance of defeating Governor Scott in November?
Well, I would suggest that I have the best chance of defeating Governor Scott in November because that would present a real choice to the people of the opponent, who, by the way, has not really recognized that there is a primary. When he got in this race, he was double digits ahead of Rick Scott. And now he is underwater. Rick Scott is ahead of him in the polling. So I see a shift in the poll, and people can say that that's about money, but it's money on both sides. And what I'm offering is something different. I don't have the money of either of my opponents. I'm doing that, as I said, they'll decide.
Considering you've been a loyal Democrat for so many years, the legislature said, do you feel a little embittered?
Issues that are that resonate with Democratic voters. And again, the establishment, there are certain people that are one place, and then there are the people. And that's why I'm going out all over this state. I've had over 300, I stopped counting at 350 visits and 100 and about 40,000 miles. Someone asked me that when I was here the last time about how many miles, and we had to go back and calculate it, and at that time I think it was about 120. And so we've kind of stopped counting now, but what I don't stop doing is counting the number of people that are now on my team all over the state. When I came here last time, I was asked the question. It was suggested that nobody knew me north of South Florida, and that is has been proven obviously to be not true. I have traveled 3 times to the Panhandle, multiple counties on visits up there, all organized for me by volunteers, because I don't have paid staff everywhere around the state. Places like Duval and Martin County and Brevard and Indian River have a group of women in Indian River. It's just remarkable, 8 women who have kind of bonded with me from the very beginning, and it's just amazing what they have been able to accomplish. So, you know, we have a different philosophy, and the party is where they are, and I'm going for where the people are.
Could you elaborate a little bit on where you expect to find the support to kind of overcome the political party's hierarchy support for your opponent? Talk a little bit more about some of the people, groups that you're reaching out to that you expect to come to the polls in the primary.
Well, number one, I expect women to come to the polls. I mean, my focus is on women because as I travel around the state, it is clear that women believe that we need to reset the priorities in this state, that we need to focus on strong public education. And you know, when people say, well, you come from South Florida, you come from Broward County, what do you have in common with those people up in the northern part of the state? And I say, you know, there's more that unites us than divides us. When I look at the issues that they care about, they're the same issues that people care about right here. I mean, they want strong public education. They don't want vouchers. They don't want public dollars, you know, taken out of public schools to go to private schools. We don't fund public education the way we should as it is. And by the way, that's something, you know, people are looking at, this battling back and forth by former Governor Christ and Governor Scott about who spent more money, who cut money from the budget when it comes to education. And you look at the funding for education, and we are still 48th in state funding of education. So nobody has moved the needle. They both had their opportunities, so I'd like to have mine.
You know, one other thing that I find kind of, it's not surprising, but you had the label of being a progressive Democrat. That may play well in the primary, but how do you think it'll play in the general election if you win the primary?
You know, again, just talking about Democrats, not even going beyond yet to independents and Republicans, you know, people say, well, the people up in the Panhandle, you know, they're Dixiecrats or whatever terms they use, and I find that they are interested in the same things. They're interested, as I said, in public education. They're interested in health care. You know, they are not opposed to Medicaid expansion. They think that that's a great idea, and why on earth are we not taking $51 billion of federal money that belongs to Floridians? We paid our taxes. We deserve not to be an even greater donor state. So they support that. They are very high on looking at environmental issues, particularly protecting land and water resources. It's the same around the state. Might be differences because I've been up to the Springs, where obviously that's a little different than, you know, the Everglades or the Indian River Lagoon, but they all connect to water resources, and that's what people are concerned about. And I look at my primary opponent when he was governor, signed 2 pieces of legislation that, you know, gutted growth management laws and environmental protection laws. So, you know, people, when I go around, they remember those things, and they would like to see someone who is really going to put an emphasis on protecting land and water resources and restoring growth management laws.
Senator, we're getting some readers are letting us know how they feel. Here's one from Georgie Spears. How can we help Florida deal or manage all the gun violence?
Well, that's a big issue with me. Let me just, former Governor Christ has had an A+ rating, you know, from people who lawfully, you know, should own them, or even and particularly children. You know, you all will remember that doctors, particularly like pediatricians, my friend Judy Schachter, gun, you know, was not locked, the bullets were not separate, and these are the kinds of things that pediatricians ask. They take a Hippocratic oath to protect the health, safety, and well-being of children. So there is a tremendous difference between my opponents and me when it comes to sensible gun laws. And I will tell you, as you go around the state, now it's true it's Democrats that I've been focusing on, but whether you're in the Panhandle or down here, people don't object to the kinds of bills that I had filed to close the gun show loophole and to have background screening so that those that shouldn't have guns, you know, don't have them.
Did you vote for the Stand Your Ground law?
I did. It was a unanimous vote in the Senate.
Why did you vote for Stand Your Ground?
I voted for Stand Your Ground Actually, because the bill, African American senator, Hispanic senator, Anglo senator, everybody voted for that bill because they did not believe it would be implemented in a way that would provide immunity for people who had, committed murder and crimes with guns. So the law needs to be changed, as governor, I would work my hardest to get that changed. When Governor Scott, first of all, Governor Chris, he didn't even come out with a position when he was Attorney General at the time, but Governor Scott, when all of this happened with Trayvon Martin, and he put together a task force, he put the people on the task force that all agreed with Stand Your Ground. It was our own Chris Smith, locally here, who was my successor as the leader of the Senate Democratic Caucus, that put together a task force that made sense because it had people that were on both sides of the issue. And they came up with some really good recommendations, which were totally ignored.
Were you leader of the Senate Democrats when Stand Your Ground?
That was 2005.
Okay.
No. No, but there are people like, when I look at people that I respect highly, people like a Rod Smith, like a Skip Campbell, Ron Klein, these were all members of the Senate, and Protect Children and Seniors had a glitch in it for volunteers. We had to come back the next year and fix it, so we did. But unfortunately, the NRA is an extremely powerful lobby, and they would not allow us to come back because they had control of the members who, could have sat down and had a discussion about how we could compromise. And
how do they control it? Because do they
money.
Give that much money, or is it just do they really give that much money, or is it really a perceived
I don't know. I've never
perception.
gotten any money from the NRA, so I don't know. I don't know exactly how much they give out, but I know they give out a lot. And listen, there are people that they're just not going to vote the other way when it comes to that issue, and it's sad because, as I said, we're putting children in jeopardy. I went to the march. They had a gun rally in Liberty City 2 Saturdays ago. And it was, I tell you, it was well attended. It was a call to action for the community because that community is being inundated with gun violence and gang violence.
How would you though make it to add to, the NRA agenda?
Yeah.
How would you, as a Democratic governor, have
these, to have guns without having proper background checks and screenings? I think we just don't need any more gun laws to allow more guns in this state. And as I said, if a bill would come to me, like the Bring Your Guns to Work law that former Governor Chris signed, I would have vetoed that bill. Same thing with the Docs versus Glocks. And there is right now a veto proof, to maintain that in this current election. But that's one of the issues. The other thing is, I think that the voters have a responsibility to those values and would, ensure that we would get some sensible gun legislation.
You referred several times to past positions.
Well, there are a number of current positions or positions that he has not changed at this moment that are still outstanding and I think are big issues on guns. The other thing has to do with public education, and it has to do with vouchers. Let's look at 16 years of almost 16 years of Republican governors, starting with Jeb Bush, who instituted the A+ plan and the so-called education reforms, which have brought us high-stakes testing, grading of schools, teacher evaluation that is flawed, and really a broken system of accountability, and it also brought us vouchers. So for a school system that is not funded properly, to take billions of dollars out and allow public funds to be used, not for public schools, but for private, often religious schools, is, in my opinion, is wrong. A recent TV show, he was asked, would you expand vouchers again as you did when you were governor before? And he said, that's a big issue.
Why did the FEA endorse them?
You'd have to ask the FEA. You'd have to ask the FEA. I have to tell you that, the FEA did what they did. I have many, many teachers that are supporting me all across the state.
What's your feeling on Common Core?
I have some issues with Common Core. One has to do with the governor, and we asked for 4 years when he was governor to try and change the FCAT and reduce the emphasis on high-stakes testing, and that did not happen at any time during his term of office as governor. You know, the parent groups all across this state, you know, how can I work with Republicans? Well, I did. I have shown my leadership with working across the aisle, and I did, and we got 8 Republican senators to go with us, and we defeated it on a 2020 vote the last day of the 2012 session, and that was an attempt to privatize public schools and allow for-profit management companies to come in and take over public schools. So that was a very bad bill, and I'm proud to say that my successor, Chris Smith, was able to do the same thing in the 2013 session. And you know, if I am fortunate enough to be there in the 2014 session and it comes to me, I would just veto it. So, but those, you know, public education, guns, you know, environment.
But he vetoed Senate Bill 6, and that was
Okay,
it.
and
That
why? And I guess my question always is why? And the reason is because he could not, he knew he had votes from independents and Democrats for his Senate race, and he knew that that constituency did not support that Senate Bill 6. So I think you have to look at all the reasons why something happens, not just, you know, that someone does something. It's, you know.
But for back on current policy
Yeah.
differences.
Change their mind on in-state tuition for undocumented students. I have been a strong supporter of that my entire time in the legislature. I've been a strong supporter of minimum wage. Governor Scott said, you know, increase in minimum wage makes him cringe. And former Governor Christ, when he ran for governor in 2006, he was interviewed by the, and I understand how someone can change a position. You learn more, and more information comes out. We all, you know, we all have changed positions. But it's about changing all your positions on every major issue 180 degrees. And that's why I have wanted debates. I've wanted to have an opportunity. Then I believe you need to listen to the people. And the original poll was something like 89% of Florida Democrats wanted to have a Democratic gubernatorial primary debate. And, you know, that is the Democratic way. It's kind of really hypocritical to think that the primary is much more of a disservice to the Democratic voters.
We have another one from somebody online here, Kathleen Jaskowski. Student loans are a huge burden to many young to middle-aged people. What, if anything, can be done on a state level to provide some level of relief?
Well, I think most of that is a function of the federal government. However, we do have Bright Futures, and Bright Futures has been cut significantly over the last few years. So that is, you know, something that is a help. The lottery money is used for, instead of investing in public education, in pre-K, which is a whole other issue for me, that, you know, we never implemented that constitutional amendment properly, but pre-K, K to 12, and universities and colleges, we have had, you know, almost 16 years of focusing on, not on the best interests of people, but on the best interests of corporations. The constant reduction in taxes for corporations, the attempt this year by the governor to again reduce the corporate income tax. We need to have a tax base so we can fund education properly, health care. We have the highest waiting lists we've ever had for home and community-based care. 60,000 frail elderly are sitting on waiting lists. And what happens is they go into a nursing home if they can't stay in their own home. We pay $27,000 for a nursing home bed versus $6,600 for community care for the elders, where instead of looking at cutting revenue all the time, we should be looking at trying to create a fairer tax structure and provide.
Changed your mind on during your political career?
You know, I'd have to say on kind of core values and principles, I have not. You know, when I look at my position on vouchers and separation of religion and state, when I look at my position on you know, on guns, when I look at the position on you know, environmental issues, I mean, you know, Mostly where I think people change their positions are on when there are discussions between different corporate or professional interests. You know, we always have the battles between the optometrists and the ophthalmologists, or different corporate interests. I think that it's easier for me to change my mind on something like that than it is for me to change it on a core value. I believe you have certain things. I'm not going to change my mind on women's reproductive rights. I mean, women has been all over the map on that issue.
He argues that when he was a state senator from Tampa for an abortion, so he describes himself as pro-life, meaning, you know, being pro-life, not being government making decisions over your body. His argument is that he has been consistent in respecting a woman's right to choose. Is he characterizing his record fairly?
I don't believe he's characterizing his record fairly, and I can tell you that the entire time that he was when he was governor, I tried to eliminate from the budget money that went to crisis pregnancy counseling centers. These centers, and this is a fact, people know it, provided inaccurate medical information to women regarding abortion and what happens or doesn't happen when someone has an abortion. The billboards, the telephone, the yellow page, women and men, contraceptives, so forth. It was $2 million a year for 4 years, and we couldn't get, and he could have vetoed that money. Could have taken that money right out of the budget, and we could have used it in another way rather than using it in what I consider to be an extremely inappropriate way. And Planned Parenthood tried for 4 years to get him to do that, and he wouldn't. He left that in there. So I don't see the record, and there are other times when he, didn't vote in favor of women's rights that way. So. I mean, again, I think he has his record, I have mine. I am 100% pro-choice, and I am the only candidate for governor that, can claim that and say that that is their position, and has always been their position.
Senator, I think I know you hold a different view on same-sex marriage.
I hope not.
Well, I know you hope not, but if they work out that way, how do you reconcile the two as governor, working with the possibility of working with Attorney General Pam Bondi?
You have to work with the people that are there, and but the truth is that so much is happening through the courts over which she will have no control, and I believe that this state, you can see it moving from Monroe County to Dade County to Broward County to Palm Beach County. I mean, every one of the court cases, something like 24 states have overturned these unconstitutional bans on same-sex marriage. So I think she is out of touch with the people and with reality of what is going on. But to get back to Tony's question, that is another big issue. I mean, that I believe where I believe there is a difference between my opponents and me, and that is on issues dealing with LGBT rights. I have been, just 100% supportive of, fought for, filed bills. 7 years I had the gay adoption bill to try and eliminate we're the only state to have an outright ban on gay adoption, and to just eliminate legislators standing by me and supporting the bill. But for 7 years, former Governor Christ was opposed to the gay adoption bill, and now he's fine. Now he's okay with it. But again, it's a record that you have. You can say, I mean, he's changed his mind also and apologized on the issue of same-sex marriage. But he does have a record of going out and standing there and proudly signing the petition to ban gay marriage for the constitutional amendment. I mean, that's part of someone's record. That's, again, why I think it was important for us, it is important still for us to have, a debate where we get this all out, talk about it. Let the people hear what you say, what you have to say now.
Why do you think, though, that Governor Scott's more afraid of running against him than he is against you? I mean, all of the ads are, they're spending their money to bring down Charlie Crist. They're not spending their money to bring down you. It would suggest that they think he's harder to beat.
I don't read it that way, actually.
How do you read it?
I think actually because of a lot of the things we've been discussing and what many people consider to be baggage that he has as a former governor, and when he left, that he actually has more out there that they can run against than on me. And I would say that's true. My issue has always been name recognition. And I'm running against a former and a current governor. And that's the biggest issue and I'm sure that is one of the reasons why he does not recognize that he has a primary and doesn't want to have a debate, because that would mean that there would be press coverage, and there would be people hearing the debate and listening to the debate. People are paying attention now more than they have paid attention in the entire time that I've been running, and I'm getting more press coverage as a result of it. And I think that is what's helping to kind of move that momentum forward for me.
His answer to why you didn't debate is he didn't have time. Would you like to respond to that?
No. What his answer was that he had to keep his eye on the ball. He had to focus on the $100 million. Well, my suggestion is you don't focus on the $100 million. You're running against a person. You're not running against the money. Yes, the person has money, but first you have a primary, and then you have a general. And again, I think it's not the Democratic way to, not to have, the willingness to have a couple of debates. And, it's on the Democratic side. And I think we're probably the only state where you can say that has not happened.
In your time in politics and your time in Tallahassee, how have you seen the politics of our state change?
Well, number one, money. The Citizens United, ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court, I think, has done just irreparable damage, and we need to find a way, whether it's getting a constitution of having all this money be able to be, poured in by unknown people, and just billions of dollars. It just distorts everything. Someone asked me the other day about the matching funds, which I am taking. And I voted for that when I was in the legislature. I thought that was a very good idea, because I think that people who don't have tons of money, this is a way of leveling the playing field. The problem is when you have Citizens United, matching funds, no longer really can level the playing field. And that's unfortunate, because everybody shouldn't have to be wealthy, to run for office. We have a lot of good people out there with good minds and good ideas. And it's making it almost impossible for people to run. And the other thing is that the ideological, the rigid ideology is really troublesome. You see it, I think, more on the federal level, on the Washington level, than you do here. But I see it here too, because when I was able to get the 12-12 vote on the parent trigger, I went across the aisle to people like Paula Dockery, Evelyn Lynn, Dennis Jones. I can go down the list. People that I consider to be moderate people. Now, those people are all gone from the legislature right now, and the reason is that the Republican Party does something that the Democratic Party doesn't usually do, and hasn't done it in the Senate, and that is to choose in a primary. And they choose the most conservative person, and they put millions of dollars behind that person. And what happened is, even though we picked up 2 seats in 2012 because of redistricting, we picked up 2 seats, but on the Republican side, when Chris went to get the vote, instead of 12-12, it was 14-6. And the 6 reflects the fact that you have less, in my opinion, that you have less moderates on the Republican side, because those seats were filled by people that were more conservative and more rigid in their ideology. And I think that's hard. It's hard. It's not good for the people, because I believe in the word compromise. I've done that my whole career in the legislature. I've worked across the aisle. I've worked across the aisle with people like Rhonda Storms, who's a very conservative, was a very conservative state senator, but we worked together on guardian ad litem. We worked together on children aging out of the foster care system, on background screening, on assisted living facilities. There are lots of things where you can still work together. And that's kind of been the model that I've used.
Clearly, a lot of the Democratic money is with Charlie Crist, the Democratic Governors Association, and organizations that are big Democratic players, a lot of the unions. Who are your 5 top endorsers?
Well, my endorsers are very distinguished women's organizations like the National Organization for Women, both Florida and nationally, the National Women's Political Caucus of Florida and nationally. I'm very proud to have the support of the last Democratic governor, former Governor Buddy McKay. I have, a lot of good support. I have some of my colleagues who I've worked with. My friend Senator Arthenia Joyner, who is going to be the incoming leader, and by the way, she was my pro tem. So when I became the first woman leader of the Senate Democratic Caucus, I picked another woman to be the pro tem. So that might be a precursor for some people who keep asking who I might pick, that, you never know, I might pick another woman. So someone said to me, well, how can you have 2 women? I said, we've had 2 men for as long as I can remember, with one exception. So we could have 2 women, don't you think? So,
why have you not picked a running mate already?
because I think it was very presumptuous of Charlie Crist to do that. I believe the voters haven't picked a nominee yet. And I think that there's time after the 26th for whoever is the winner to go out and vet and select their nominee. I just don't believe that it's appropriate to do it before the voters have decided that, who their nominee is.
Senator,
Can we back up one moment? Who would a 5th top endorser be? Give us 4.
I gave you 4. Okay. Well, I thought I gave you 2 because there were. I'm sorry. The Palm Beach Human Rights Council just endorsed me. Gave out a beautiful endorsement. They have a pretty broad network around the state, and they recognize, and I'm very proud of this. They stood by their convictions and had the courage to kind of go against, some of the establishment, because they felt that I had been there for them on all the issues that are important to them, and that I've been a leader in the legislature on that, and I would be a leader as governor on those issues.
Senator, I know you don't want to think about losing, but if things don't work out in your favor, what would you do? Would you continue in public service? Would you be interested in working with Charlie Crist if you were to become governor?
You know what? I think I'll wait to make all those decisions. I've been asked the question if I would support him, and I said I would support the Democratic nominee. I wonder if you asked him that question, because I have not heard him say that he would support the Democratic nominee if he were not the Democratic nominee. So I've been very clear on that, and I will work, obviously, to have a Democratic governor after 16 years in the desert, so to speak.
I know you don't want to discuss losing, as Gary said, but there's been some talk that if you did lose, you might run for the Broward County Commission in 2016.
That would be absolutely no.
And no way that'll happen?
No. Oh.
Why?
You know what? I have certain interests within the public policy arena, and the county commission, city commissions. I had that when I first ran in 2000. They said, you need to start on the city commission or on the county commission. And I said, no, I don't. Because the issues that are important to me and the ones that I want to work on are ones that are decided in the state legislature. People have asked me if I want to go to Congress, and I say, no, actually, I love state government. That's where I have had, I think, great impact. Even though I've been in the minority, I have passed amazing pieces of legislation by working across the aisle, things that have given more and more children the opportunity to have kid care, to be insured, kids aging out of the foster care system, to have Medicaid, people just even to have to wear seat belts. That hadn't been passed for 20 years. I managed to get that bill passed. There were a couple of incredible foster care bills that protect foster care children. So that's where my my interest rests. And so I will find if for some reason I don't win, I will find other ways to be involved with public service that will also connect with my personal interests in public policy.
Senator, I want to go back to that running mate question for a minute. What qualities would you look for in a running mate? I mean, you kind of open the door that it might be a woman, but I'm just curious, what would you look for as someone to complement your strengths?
Well, I think first of all it has to reflect the diversity of the state. I'm very concerned about that. I look at, when I look at some of the judicial appointments and things, we do not have, in Broward County, we don't either have, I think a judiciary that reflects the diversity of our community, and I think that that's one thing certainly I would look for. Certainly geographic diversity and cultural, I'd want it to be someone who has, great integrity, that's been, a good public servant, and also someone like me that really cares and is steeped in public policy. I think that's very important. To some degree, this primary election has been, substance and style, kind of one versus the other. And I believe strongly that people that are elected need to really be knowledgeable about the issues and be focused on the solutions to those issues, so that we can solve some of the critical problems. I look at the research piece that came out from the Leroy Collins Institute. I think I mentioned at the Florida Press Association, which said that the 2005 study, this one just came out in 2014, so the 2005 study, that nothing has been done. And so instead of saying tough choices, they say tougher choices, because it is tougher each year that you don't deal with any of the major issues that are out there. Then the choices are tougher. Just like with environmental, when I look at the devastation to the springs, to the Indian River Lagoon, the whole issue of sea level rise, we have had governors that have not paid attention to that, and we need to have a very strong, comprehensive plan to deal with the near term and the long term, because these issues are going to have an incredible impact on the economy of the state of Florida.
When you just said this election's been about substance versus style, were you suggesting that Governor Christ is style and has no substance?
Well, let's put it this way. We haven't been able to discuss any substance or policy issues, and you put what you want in the ad. But rather, when you have some people like you all, like other journalists, people who will sit there and ask the tough questions and not take answers that are not really full answers to questions. I think that's very important, and so that's what I mean by that.
Do you think there's a lack of substance to Governor Christ?
I don't think that he focuses on public policy the way I do. Let's put it that way. That's been my hallmark, and I don't think that's what he focuses on to any great degree. And you can have people around you that kind of fill in the blanks and are good policy people, and I would do that, and I've always done that in my own life, whatever. Certainly within the legislative process, I've always had really strong policy people around me, but it's just something that I personally find important, that I can discuss those issues, that I can come up with ideas and solutions, that can resolve some of those issues.
It's got to be terribly difficult to run a statewide campaign, especially when you're not the person who's getting the money, and getting the breakthrough. Are you still making the phone calls, trying to raise the dollars?
Oh yes, and we get dollars every day. Yes, absolutely.
What's your fundraising total so far?
I'd have to. It's about well, if you consider the what was the CCE, the PC, and the regular campaign contributions, and in kind, it's probably up around $900,000 at this
and
point, something like that.
Have you loaned your campaign any money?
No, I have not loaned my campaign money.
Why not?
You know what? I have a different strategy. I've been going out, as I've mentioned, and developing this grassroots campaign, and my energy and my resources are going That's why these two.
But it's how you win. I mean,
Well, we'll
it's
see.
proven.
Is that how Eric Cantor won? He didn't. His opponent had $200,000 attention to the issues that his constituents cared about. I mean, that resonates with me. Those are all the things that I'm doing, and that I have done as a legislator for 12 years.
I guess the difference, though, is his was a
Yes,
district.
it's only a district, but
Running statewide in Florida, history tells us that to be successful, you've got to raise big dollars in order to be on television.
yeah. Well,
And so I guess,
you know what,
what's
we
it been like
No,
running?
you have social media now. You have so many other energizing. When I go around this state and I see how many people don't like the priorities, don't like the direction of the state right now, and want to change, and are out there volunteering for me, phone banking, raising money, having events. It is energizing, and and that's why I said we'll see where these are the people. These are, and like I said, they're interested in what is going to happen to public education, what's going to happen to the health care of my child, what things are going on that are going to affect my daily life. That's what people really think about. That's why I try to tell people about sea level rise. It's hard to get that message across to people about something that's going to happen 50 years or 30 years from now, when you're worried about putting food on the table, paying your rent, making sure that your child can go to the doctor. And these are the things we're talking about.
I mean, back on the, in the Democratic Party politics, there are some who feel that you're going to hurt the Democrats' chance of defeating Rick Scott. And among some Democrats, the desire is so great to defeat Governor Scott that they see you as hurting the party's best shot.
Well, there are just as many people out there that think that I'm the one who has the best shot to defeat Rick Scott, and want me to stay in this race. And I've told people from the very beginning, when people tried to, have me not run, that I was in this race before Charlie Crist was in this race. I'm the true Democrat, and I believe that the best shot at beating Rick Scott is for a true progressive Democrat to run against a Tea Party Republican.
We have another question from online. You're from Leslie. African American communities are hurting in Florida. How would you help our communities and make us feel we are important too?
Well, I'd like to say to her that I have a track record of working very hard with populations that sometimes are ignored. A number of years ago, I helped start a program called HIPPY, Home Instruction for Parents of Preschool Youngsters, and that's a program that is it's throughout this state now, program started in Miami-Dade schools, and we did it in inner city communities. It is a program to teach moms how to be the first educator of their children, and it helped prepare. And we have research and data to show it. We know what happened with the moms. They went back to school. They got their degrees. The whole environment in which the child lived changed. We know that the kids have done better on FCATs. They've stayed in school. They've stayed on grade level. They've graduated. This is all research that's been done through the University of South Florida, which is the technical training and assistance site. So, this is the kind of program I've pushed to try and level the playing field, to close the gaps that exist. We know, just with what happened with the PICO dollars over 3 years, all the PICO dollars went to charter schools. Well, that hurt a lot of our schools that needed money for refurbishing, for renovating, for technology needs, where we don't have equality all the time across the board with kids who can go and buy a computer, and then somebody that is at a school and can't do that, and we're asking kids to take tests that are done on computers, and we're not, we haven't leveled the playing field. So those are kinds of things that I've been looking at. The minimum wage I mentioned. I have been a strong supporter when Senator Bullard, who, by the way, I can use him as the 6th endorsee, Senator Dwight Bullard, who has endorsed me, and he is one of the best education advocates. He is right now the best education advocate in the legislature. He came out with a bill last year, which was never heard, to raise the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. That's a big help for people that are stuck in low-paying jobs and are still living under the poverty level. So, you know, I think there's a lot of issues where we can work together. I work, as I mentioned, with my friend Senator Joyner. She's she's extremely knowledgeable on criminal justice issues. We have a lot of disparities in the criminal justice system dealing with African American boys in particular. We need to get rid of this, you know, school to prison pipeline. We need to have civil citations, which many of the school districts, including Broward, are, you know, are moving towards and are doing. But we need to look at all of these kinds of things. Stand your ground needs to be changed. These are all pieces of the criminal justice and the juvenile justice system that we need to focus on to, again, you know, we shouldn't be incarcerating all these children. We need diversion programs, and, you know, we need to make sure that we give them the opportunity to reach their full potential, just as all children should have.
Where do you think Governor Scott is most vulnerable?
That's interesting, yeah. I think he's vulnerable on education issues, because despite what he says, you know, he cut education and he signed a major voucher bill that will take more money away from public schools. So I think education is a big issue. I think human services they're vulnerable. You know, the bill that passed, I had this conversation with you at the Press Association, the bill that passed on foster care this year on protective investigation. He, you know, heralded that in as the panacea for everything. We fixed this problem. We have not fixed this problem, because yes, we're going to have more protective investigators to go in the home. We're going to have better trained ones and hopefully move towards the social work degree, but whether that child is safe and the services are there to protect, to help the family and protect the child. Because otherwise what's going to happen is all those children, now the protective investigator is not going to want to leave the child in the home, and especially if the services aren't there, and they're going to pull the children out, and we're going to explode our foster care system. We're not going to have, you know, enough foster care homes, and that'll be the other problem. So because the pendulum goes back and forth constantly with child welfare, and somewhere we have to get in the middle. And one of the things that I said is, you know, when I become governor, I would be looking at revamping and you know, I will get it to you.
Right.
I promise.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good. Because, you know, we are a
I know.
platform
I know
that
you
help
are.
people
Yes.
get out, even more than social media.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any questions from anyone else in the room?
Yeah, one issue
Yeah, we should have known.
Yeah, you should have known. That's one question that's kind of popped up, an issue that's popped up here in the Southeast is all aboard Florida.
Huh?
And let's talk transportation for a minute.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about the idea of an intercity passenger train line?
You know, light rail and commuter type rail. You know, unfortunately, the high-speed rail, as much as I would have liked to have seen that money not returned, that wouldn't have done what you're talking about and what All Aboard Florida is talking about. Although there are issues with All Aboard Florida, and I have to say that because I have, as I said, I've been in all these counties, and all these counties in along the Treasure Coast where that train will not stop. It will pass by there 32 times a day, but there's going to be no economic development for those communities, and it's going to have all these different times. What about emergency responders? I mean, they have all different kinds of issues that are important to them, and I think that, you know, we need to. I think this governor hasn't done that because I think that there is a conflict of interest in this particular setup that includes one of the governor's staff. But I think that we need to have a little more discussion about what it does, where it stops, how maybe we could do this. You know, I look at the elevated tri-rail that goes down to Miami, and it's elevated. The monorail, the people mover and everything, and it's elevated. Now, I don't know if that's an answer, but you know, it seems to me there has to be some more discussion about the people that are impacted, and that's what they care about. They say, look, we're going to be impacted by that, and nobody cares about us. And you know, it's true. The people that are going to get the stops are excited, but the people that, you know, kind of get left out in the dark, they are not excited about this.
So what's the answer, though?
I think the answer is to, first of all, to get people together and sit down and have a conversation, and area or some area where you would not have to have this disruption to people's lives in all of these other cities. You know, I just think, you know, not enough has. We need to have some more discussion, I think, about it. I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of public-private partnerships and being able to do this. I mean, there is no other answer here as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we need more bus transportation. We need all kinds of transportation, but I don't believe you can do it without evaluations. And the governor called a summit last year on a Thursday to be started on a Monday. And he had more legislators than he had educators. This idea about who can beat Rick Scott or who cannot beat Rick Scott, I think that people should have the courage of their convictions, and they should vote for the person that they think will be the best governor. And I truly believe that if that happens, that I will win this primary and go on to defeat Rick Scott and be the first woman governor and the first Democratic governor in 16 years in the state of Florida. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes.
I enjoyed the dialogue,
Yeah,
as
thanks
always.
for coming in.
My pleasure.
It's good
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank
We
you.
wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.